How's everybody doing? Today, I wanted to make this video, but I didn't want to make this video. It'll make sense in a second. But so today I'm going to talk about some of my biggest disappointments of the year so far. Now that doesn't mean that these books are necessarily bad. Maybe a couple of them were bad, but it just means like there was something about it that I felt was missing, or might have went wrong somewhere, or like just didn't work for me. And maybe one of the books has like a higher rating, which like I said, it doesn't mean that the book was bad. It just means that something about the book was a little bit disappointing to me. So one of them I'm really nervous about because, like, I don't know, I'll get to it, but let me just get into the books and show y'all like what I mean, and y'all will understand when I get into it. So the first book is White Smoke by Tiffany Jackson. This book is like a thriller kind of book. And I didn't know what book I wanted to read. So I had my fiance pick out a book for me, and he picked this book. Now, I've only read one other Tiffany Jackson book, and that's Grown, and I loved it. Like, I stayed up way later than I should have to finish that book one night. And it was just really good. And I was like, ooh, she has like a thriller book. Like, I didn't know that White Smoke was a thriller. So I was like, well, let me go ahead and get into this. And it was good. Like, it was good, but it had no payoff. Like, it was like all build up, no payoff. Like, the ending was not satisfying at all. I was expecting so much more based on what was going on in this book, and just for it to be what it was just not, it didn't work for me. I gave the book 3.5 stars because, like I said, the rest of the book was okay. It was just, the ending was such a disappointment. It just ended so abruptly. And then the reveal of what was going on just was not satisfying. It just did not work for me personally. There may be somebody out there who loved this book. And when you have when you have R.L. Stein endorsing your book, I'm like, ooh, this is gonna be great. Like, I like lived for R.L. Stein when I was little. Like, so I guess I was just expecting a little bit more, and it just did not. It did, like I said, all build up, no payoff. So yeah, this White Smoke was one of my disappointments. It got 3.5 stars. The next book, and this one hurts, is Beasts of War by Ayana Gray. Now, this was a book club read. Kay and I read Beasts of Prey and Beasts of Ruin last July, I think. And this is when it was like basically just me and her in our book club. Like I told you before, we moved from Storygraph to Fable for us to read books together as buddy reads, and then our book club has grown. We have like 200 members now almost. But back then it was just her and I and one other person that showed up in July, and she was reading these books with us. So it was just 3 of us reading these books. We fell in love with them. We talked about how great the writing was. The atmosphere was so creepy, and the story was good, and the twists and turns were great, and the second book was so good. Sometimes it's so hard for a second book in a trilogy or a second book in a series period to be good. You got to build on the world, you got to build on the characters, you got to add new characters without making them seem unnecessary. And it worked. Like, it worked really well. But we got to Beasts of Prey, and it was starting off great. And then about 2/3 into the book, the plot was just completely abandoned, completely forgotten. And then the plot was like, what's the word I'm looking for? It was, come on, Shelby, what's the word? The plot was resolved. There we go. The plot was resolved like in the last chapter or two, and it was maybe a paragraph or 2 or paragraph and a half of the plot, the main plot being resolved. But it didn't work. Like, we all had the same thought when we got to the point where we were like, wait, what about the main point of the story, which is like defeating the bad guy? Like, we completely forgot about that, and we moved on to something else. And then it's like, oh wait, it was like it was forgotten. And then we get to the end, it was like, oh crap, I forgot about the whole point of the story. I have to go back now and add it in like a chapter just so that part is resolved. Like, it just did not work, and it was so disappointing because we were so excited for this book. And it took us a while, like to this day, we are still, so every now and then it's like, I still cannot believe Beasts of War. I still cannot believe that book and how it like just did not, it just, I think I gave this 3.5 stars too, and that hurt because the first 2 books, I think both of those books got 5 stars. So it's just, yeah, like I'm noticing a theme where it's like, it's just the endings and the way the stories conclude are just not satisfying for me. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, what happened? What happened in the writing process? It just got completely forgotten. Like, I don't know, talking about it is upsetting me all over again because I was so excited about this book, and I was just so disappointed. Yeah, it just, yeah. The next book, it just, oh God. The next book, I think this is the first book that I've given like a 1 star. I had it at 2 stars, and then I dropped it down to 1 star. And the author of this book wrote one of my favorite fantasy series. And this book is Realmbreaker by Victoria Aveyard. Got a 1. Let me tell you, I started reading this book, I want to say it was either the end of May, beginning of June, something like that. I just finished this book last week. This book, this story was so boring and long-winded and drawn out and wordy and chapters unnecessarily long. Like, it was so, like, there was so much going on there. I think part of the problem is that you're trying to do too much world building within the context of the story. Like, you explaining too much about the world, it seemed like, and it seemed unnecessary. Like, it just, you would have to read it to understand what I mean by that. Like, we would be the character would be talking about something, and then it'd be like, yeah, because this place, and in this place they do this, and then this place, it just was too much explanation of unnecessary stuff that had nothing to do with what was going on in the story. It was just, I did not like the characters. I did not connect with any of the characters. I could not get into the story. The plot was confusing. It was just boring. And I thought, I was like, maybe, I was like, it can't, is it just me? Is it just me? And after I gave the book a rating and wrote my little review, which I said was like, I said boring, too wordy, something like that. I went down to look at other reviews, and the first review I saw said, it should be illegal for a book to be this long and this boring. And I was like, okay, it's not just me. And unfortunately, I have the whole rest of the series down here, but I don't think I want to read it because I couldn't really tell you like what was really going on. Like, it was like it was just too much confusion for not a lot happening. Like, the way it ended was kind of like, ugh, like what? When I tell you, when I finished this book, I was so relieved. I was like, oh, thank God. I'm so over this book. And I like Victoria Aveyard, and I was so excited. I was like, oh, Red Queen was so great. I'm going to eat this series up. And it just did not feed me the way I wanted it to feed me. It just was not doing it for me. There's no way it should have taken me over a month to finish this book because I just didn't want to pick it up. And when I would pick it up, I would read a few pages, and I found myself falling asleep while I was reading this book. Chapters like 30, 40 pages long. For what? For what? That's what I'm saying. You adding too much. You could have cut all these chapters in half, and the book still would have probably made more sense. Because you wouldn't have been explaining unnecessary stuff that had nothing to do with the story. And I'm like, wait, huh? Like, no, the characters, some of the dialogue was just ridiculous. Some of the characters didn't even need to be in the book because they weren't doing anything. What was happening? What happened? Like, I was so disappointed. I've never given a book 1 star. I just won't finish it. But I was like, oh, maybe something to say. No, it didn't. Nothing got better at all. So this got 1 star. If you liked it, let's have a conversation. Let's talk about it. You tell me what I'm not understanding about it, and we can go from there. But for right now, it got 1 star, and it's staying that way. And I'm probably not going to reread it or change my mind. But we can still talk about it. And the last book, the most recent one, and this one is the one that like hurts the most. And before I get started, let me say that I'm not saying this was a bad book. It was just things about this were disappointing to me. And that book is Children of Anguish and Anarchy by Tomi Adeyemi. Y'all know I love me some Tomi Adeyemi on this over here. Like, we stan her. That's my, like, favorite, if one of my favorite authors, if not my favorite author. And this book got a 4. Let me start by saying that. I gave this book a 4. Okay? It got a 4. And there are a few reasons why that this was disappointing to me. So this was another book I read with my book club. I knew this book was coming out in June, so I was like, hey, this book is coming out. We got to read it for book club, but she hadn't read the first 2. So her and I and one other person from our book club they read it, and I reread it with them, the first book, on Storygraph, and they loved it. And then the second book, I reread the beginning of this month, the beginning of July, before I started this one. So this one was already out, but I was like, I need to reread the second one so I'm caught up and I know what's going on. And Kay also read it. She loved it. She's like, oh my God, I got to see what's happening. And I forgot. The second one ends and she like wakes up on a ship and she doesn't know where she's going. And I forgot that that's how it ended. So we start reading this book, and we're in book club and we're like adding our little notes in the chapter, and everyone is like, what is going on? Like, who are these new antagonists that we've never heard anything about the entire series? Just what happened to the civil war happening in Orisha, between the Titans and the Kosadans and the people who have magic, who their names are just escaping me for some reason. Like, what is happening? Like, the main problem is that this book deviated so much from the rest of the series. This could have been a completely separate story. This could have been a completely different book outside of the series, because it just had the only connection it had to the rest of the series were the characters, and that we were in Orisha for a little bit to try to get people to band together because there's a new enemy we gotta fight. There's a new enemy. There's a new kingdom with people with different kinds of magic than we're used to. Like, I was just really, really confused. Like I said, this was like, there was nothing wrong with the story. I actually enjoyed the story on its own. It was a great story. That's why I gave it a 4. The only reason it didn't get a 5 is because of the disappointment I felt with it not if this was supposed to be the ending to this entire series, then it just is so unfulfilling. Like, there were way too many questions that needed to be answered at the end for me to be like satisfied with what I was given. Like, there just was too much that I didn't know, and there were too much that didn't make sense, and I was just like, I was very, very torn on whether I wanted to make a video about this on my TikTok. I still haven't, because I'm just like, I don't want to sow any discourse by saying what I'm saying. I feel safer saying it on YouTube, but it's just, I just don't understand why we deviated so far from the series. Like, and then the way that the I don't want to spoil it. That's why I'm having trouble like saying what I want to say about the book. If you want to go read my review on Goodreads, you can. I probably worded it a lot better than I'm wording it right now. It's just the main word of this entire video is unfulfilled, because a lot of these books left me feeling unfulfilled, unsatisfied. The endings were not great, or it just, I don't know. I was so looking forward to this book, and like I said, it wasn't bad. It still got a 4, but it just didn't make sense within the context of the rest of the series, and that's what was disappointing to me. There was not a satisfying ending to the rest of the series. Like, we still like don't know, did they go back to war? Was it like, you know what, let's just forget it because we have this enemy and we're just gonna not go back to fighting amongst ourselves? Like, what? There's just too many things unanswered. Just, it was disappointing for sure. This one was probably, while it was the highest rated of the 4 books that I talked about today, it was the most disappointing, because I've just been, as somebody who waited for what, 4 years, or maybe a little over 4 years for this book to come out and to get what I was given. We need a do-over. We need a do-over. Like, rewrite it and make it make sense. Like, please. So that's the end of my my video. Please let me know if you actually enjoyed any of these books and how they ended and the direction that they went in. Maybe, you know, you have your own opinion, and that's completely fine, and I have my own opinion, and that's completely fine. But if there's somebody out there who has a different opinion than me, I would definitely love to hear it and see what your point of view is, and see, you know, maybe you saw something I didn't. I don't know. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you like, subscribe, turn your notifications, and I'll see you next time. Bye.